Thank you for coming to visit me today. My name is MinnieDunlop, and I was born in the Netherlands. However, I came to this country when I was 14 years old in 1910. My family still remained in the Netherlands, and when Hitler's army invaded, they all lived under occupation, except of course for Queen Wilhelmina. Queen Wilhelmina was exiled to London, and she had the most wonderful collection of hats, and she really kept people's spirits up. So I always followed events in Europe even before the United States got into the war. But what I really want to tell you about is some of my experiences during the war. They were very difficult times in my life, but I always digress. In 1921, I married Clyde Dunlop, and he was a painter and an interior decorator here in Rochester. And we had 6 wonderful children. We had our daughter Anne, and we had 5 rambunctious boys. There was Clyde Jr., whom we called Bud. There was Leon, there was James, George, and then William Gerald, whom we called Jerry. And you know, if you have more than 2 children, you have to count them off so you don't miss any. Well, when the United States entered World War II in 1941, it was a very heavy heart that I watched my boys one by one enter the services. It was rather, as Mrs. Roosevelt said, you had to go on, you had to go day by day, but something inside you quietly died. And that's the way I always felt when my boys left. Clyde and I would listen to the radio, we would read the newspapers looking for information about the various units that the boys were in. We kind of wanted to hear it, and we kind of did not want to. Now, Bud was a gunner on a B-17 Fighting Fortress, and he flew 30 missions in Europe, and he won air medal with clusters. We were very proud, but of course we were proud of all our boys, but he had the medals. Jerry was in the Navy, and the other 3 boys were in the Army. I sometimes felt I was called upon to sacrifice more than my fair share. But to be truthful, there were 2 other mothers here in the Rochester area who had 5 children that were enlisted in the armed services. And I suppose 5 children, 1 child, it's heartbreaking all around. In January of 1945, that Western Union telegram that we all dreaded was delivered to our door. Clyde opened it up, and we read that our son George had been killed at the Battle of the Bulge. Now, George had only enlisted 3 months previously. He left behind his wife and his 3-year-old daughter, Mary Margaret. And I always felt so badly for Mary Margaret because she really didn't know her daddy. Clyde and I, in some ways, were fortunate because George's body was returned. It's buried right here beside us. Many families weren't that fortunate. And hanging over Clyde's gravestone is a Blue Star service banner. These banners were first developed in World War I so that you would hang it in your door and people would know you had someone in the service. But in World War II, we mothers and wives wanted to do more than just hang a banner. And so the Blue Star Mothers was started. It was actually started here in Flint, Michigan, but it's a national organization. We rolled bandages, we knit socks, we sent care packages, we worked in the VA hospital, anything we could do to support our families that were fighting overseas. In Rochester, the Blue Stars Mothers raised all the money to build the Veterans Memorial that I understand is now down by City Hall. And if you haven't seen it, you should. There's 1,100 names on that memorial. Those were all people from this area who participated, men and women, in the war effort. Unfortunately, 28 of those names have a gold star. The gold star was placed beside the name of those people who were killed in action. Well, that's basically my story of World War II. Thank you for coming, and continue to hear more about our heroes in the stone.